Peggy Venable, and you are watching a special edition of On Point. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about education policy and a very new, very controversial aspect of it. But first, let's just consider the fact that education is one of the most important issues in public policy today. Right here in Texas, we spend more money on education than any other area of the state budget. We have almost 5 million kids in Texas public schools, and we spend over $50 billion a year on kindergarten through 12th grade education. And K through 12 certainly is always a hotbed of controversy, but that's nothing new. I worked for the U.S. Department of Education. It was the first White House liaison in the Reagan administration, and that's when A Nation at Risk, the iconic report, was first initiated. That report showed us that though we spent more than almost any other industrialized nation on education, our test scores and our student performances were far below what we expected they would be. Things haven't changed much since 1980. Today, Texas is 14th out of 34 industrialized countries on reading. We're 17th on science, and we're 25th in math. Texas is not doing a lot better. We have over 500 schools that are rated academically unacceptable. So as schools, parents, taxpayers, and policymakers work to improve the situation and to enhance students' test scores to make sure they're getting a quality education in public schools, many controversies have arisen. I think one of the most recent ones is something called Cscope. It is a lesson plan designed ostensibly to help improve students' performance. But there are many questions that we'll be raising this hour. We'll be speaking to experts, both teachers in the classroom who have used Cscope, education researchers, concerned parents, and we have some experts that we'll be talking to about this controversial program. I guess the key question we'll be asking is it really Cscope, or is this a C-scam that we are engaged in? I will also say that another aspect of education that we'll be addressing this legislative session as this session gets underway is school finance, and a key part of that and how we finance the schools. And over 600 schools are suing the state, saying that either the funding is not adequate or it isn't equitably distributed. In full disclosure, I am going to be an expert witness among the portion of the lawsuit, among the parents that are suing the state, saying that those dollars are not being efficiently spent. So when we look at efficiently spending tax dollars, that's something that we at Americans for Prosperity and the Red Apple Project have been focused on for several years. Right now, we spend only half of our education dollars on instruction. Most school districts have one non-teaching staff for every teacher. The category of other professional staff make almost $9,000 a year more than teachers make. And again, we have many school districts that are rated academically unacceptable or simply acceptable, which really shouldn't be acceptable to us as parents and taxpayers. Our first expert is someone I've grown to know and respect as I've gotten to know more about Cscope. It's Janine McGregor, known as Miss Mac in education circles. She's an award-winning teacher and education researcher. Thanks so much for being with us, Miss Mac.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I know you have some key questions that you are posing that we need to address regarding Cscope.
Yes, I would like to talk to our audience first of all and thank them for tuning in with us. And I'd like to ask you, the parents that are out there, some questions. Have you recently noticed that when your child is coming home, there's less homework or no homework at all? Or the fact that they are not bringing home textbooks like you did when you were younger? Or perhaps they've told you something very suspicious, the fact that teachers are giving answers to them before they have to take a test. And then when you ask questions, is it something like you don't know what you're talking about and they're dismissed right off the bat? As taxpayers who are listening to us today, did you know that your money was used to develop the product of Cscope? And because of Cscope, that product is being now owned by a group of superintendents who joined together in an organization called TESCCC, which stands for the Educational Service Center Collaborative, and that when your tax dollar is paid for this program that is used by some of our schools in Texas, that they don't have anything at the end of the year and they have to release and repay at the beginning of the next year. And to our legislators who are listening, thank you very much. Would like to know, did you know that the region centers that you set up for us many years ago with the great intent of helping us at a local level have now turned into a group of individuals who have a chokehold on our educational system? And they're doing this in a lot of different ways. Now, these questions that I've asked you, we're going to address. And before we do that, we'd like to point out to Peggy and to everyone that is listening that there are several truths that we have discovered in our research of Cscope. Number one, in the state of Texas, we have what's called TEKS, which is Essential Knowledge and Skills, and we have high standards here in Texas. We are one of the few states that have not joined in the Common Core because we consider our standards higher and do not seek to join in that federal program. But because of that, there are a group of superintendents that met in 2006, actually before we heard about Common Core, who wanted to transform public education in Texas. When they met, out came a program about the same time called Cscope. And Cscope was advertised, I would say, as the perfect guaranteed curriculum for the state of Texas. And they sold this product on two basic elements, that this would address the upcoming STAR test, of which we're to fear, and also that it would help children who would move around from school campus to school campus or school district to school district. So the school board members listened and they purchased this product. It was going to be the cure-all. And because they said it was a curriculum management program, it sounded great. It would be easy to control everything and make sure that all of those TEKs were addressed. But it is not a management for curriculum. It is a control system of the whole education system in Texas. You have very few people who are controlling what your children learn in the classroom, and they're controlling the teachers who are ordered basically to sign what's called a user agreement and prohibited from discussing what is taught in the classroom. Peggy, this is disturbing on a lot of levels. One of them is the covertness of this and the fact that we have a lot of people ask questions, well, I've not heard of this, and we found out that it's been in place for a number of years. But interesting enough, the covertness was acted out in two petitions that the organization of TESCCC petitioned our Attorney General, asking them not to have to abide to the Public Information Act. That means they did not want to share the information with the public of what was on the lessons. Then they were asked to be declared as a non-governmental agency. Then the second petition that we've heard of recently, of which we don't know how our Attorney General will respond, is the fact that they do not want to even reveal their minutes of their meetings and agendas that they've had in the past, where we can learn what the real objective is of this program. Now, the research shows that it is based upon a very radical liberal agenda, and this reflects an ongoing history of a battle in education between what is called conservative and traditional versus progressive or liberal. And we've seen it over the years, the 1940s, the 1960s, and now it's showing its head again. What is different this time is the fact that it is a total control system, and that everything from what is taught, how it is taught, and when it is taught is controlled by this organization. Now, the organization itself, TESCCC, has 19 directors. Out of the 19 directors happen to be the 19 Region Center directors. Now, I know I have a lot to share, and I'm sorry that I cannot point out all the truths, but there's one thing that's very important to me and very disturbing. When we talk to teachers who have to sign this user agreement, they are so afraid and intimidated under the threat of criminal action to come forward when they want to. And because of that fear and that intimidation, we have teachers that tell us things off camera or on the side, but cannot feel that they can come forward because it will be detrimental to their profession, themselves personally.
Isn't that amazing? I think we have been seeing that yes, teachers are talking about this. It seems to be a big controversy in the schools, but teachers are being encouraged not to criticize Cscope and not to come forward. We are fortunate today to have a teacher who is in the classroom and uses Cscope. She is an award-winning teacher and education researcher. For purposes of anonymity, we're simply going to call her our anonymous teacher because we want to protect her position in her school district. And I'd like to ask a few questions of our anonymous teacher, which looks like she's in the Witness Protection Program. And isn't that a shame when we're using our tax dollars? And teachers, don't feel free to step up and talk honestly and frankly about the shortcomings of some of the lesson plans that they're giving. But let me ask the first question of our anonymous teacher, and why should parents have concern about the academic quality of the Cscope lessons?
Well, Peggy, thank you. I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity today to talk to parents who are viewing this program as well as taxpayers. I wanted to say that every single morning across the state of Texas, when we see that yellow school bus pull up in front of our house and the moms and dads watch their child strap on their backpack, get on the bus, there's also a lot of trust that gets on that school bus. The trust that parents have in the school to provide a solid academic program for their child. And most parents think that the child is going to go to school and receive traditional instruction in the kinds of things that they learned when they were in school. Like, for example, their child will learn multiplication facts and will be confident in math and will learn how to spell well and use grammar in their writing. But the fact of it is that a lot of those component parts are not even in the Cscope curriculum management program. So I think there are a lot of parents right now that are viewing this that have, and parents have expressed dismay to me in conferences, that their children are coming home and they have the uneasy feeling that they're not being prepared academically. But it's very, very difficult for parents to really understand, words like curricular management program. And I'm hoping that what I have the time to present today can help parents to get a little bit of a feeling of what they should be looking at. For example, our state education code states that it is clearly the right of parents to see the instructional lessons that their children are participating in. And any parent would assume that that is their right as a parent. Well, a parent would have to go to the school and demand to see a printed version of the Cscope curriculum lessons and handouts that their child was going to be partaking of in a given school year. And that's so difficult to do that a lot of parents are not understanding why they're not feeling like their child is being well educated, but it's very hard to piece together the pieces of the puzzle.
Well, we do have just a limited amount of time, and I think you've painted a great picture in terms of what the parents' concerns might be, and we'll have some parents on the program in just a few minutes. But why are teachers resisting using Cscope? We hear from a number of teachers that they don't feel that the Cscope program does what it should do. Why are parents resisting using it, in your view?
Being told that Cscope has to be used because it provides rigor to get students ready for the state-mandated testing, which is STAR. Well, it is a piece of our job to help students be well prepared for the STAR test. But more importantly, a child has to be given good grade level instruction. The fact of it is if you really look at the lessons and read through them, the lessons are not rigorous. Many contain a lot of cut and paste activities. They're heavy in students sort of playing in the classroom. And many teachers see it as a huge waste of valuable instructional time, whereas they would have a lesson much stronger to use, but they're not being allowed to use the lessons that they best see fit. The loss of teacher autonomy, being able, if you take away from a teacher the right to design good instruction in the classroom and to carry out lessons that she knows or he knows are suitable for the class, you take away the reason for having the teacher in the classroom in the first place.
Well, it's a really great points, and I want to thank our anonymous teacher for stepping forward. We're going to be hearing from her a little bit later in the program and talking about what parents can do if they have concern, how they can find out more about what they can do in their own school districts. We're also really delighted to have with us Janice Van Clive. She's a renowned science textbook author and Cscope critic, and we're really excited to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of your concerns are and what you found out about Cscope?
Well, with Cscope, in comparison to other curriculum, I can't even talk. Cscope doesn't carry through with the summation of the materials. They start with maybe in kindergarten talking about forces, and whatever they talk about in kindergarten, they just assume that the children, hey, they have it. Okay, so now we'll go to the next grade, and they add to that. But they never actually bring in reteaching of the materials. And this is what I've seen through the whole, the lessons that I've been able to see, like from K through 8 with the forces. And if they describe something in one of the younger grades, it just carries through. They just keep on saying the same thing that's incorrect. There are a lot of incorrect information. And as far as the science TEKS, Cscope may copy the TEKS and have them at the top of the lesson. But Cscope is not actually teaching the elements of the science TEKS to the children in every lesson. And I know that they are having the science reviewed now, and I assume that they're paying a company a considerable amount of money. Well, I'd offer to review all of the science TEKS and that are in Cscope along with the lessons, K through 12. Giving you my offer, I'll do that, no charge. And I'll give you a fair evaluation of what the lessons are really about. I've turned in things to Cscope, to the, to Wade LeBay, who is the Cscope's state director, and told him that, this is wrong, or maybe this is not safe. And oftentimes, what I get back is something that's relatively impersonal, and I assume it's the same thing that teachers get. And oftentimes they indicate that I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I do.
Well, clearly from all the books that you have written and what you have done, you do know science and science education. That's really fascinating, and thank you for sharing your perspective on Cscope. I'm eager for us to talk about the finances of Cscope and what Cscope is costing the schools as we get further into the program. But we also have with us a parent that is really concerned about Cscope. We have Dr. Dave Stovall from Beaumont. He is a dentist. He has 3 children, school-aged, and you have really had an experience learning more about Cscope, and you made an important decision based on what you learned. Is that right, Dr. Stovall?
Yes, ma'am. Our initial concern with Cscope began when our daughter began coming home from school and needing to prepare for a test, and she didn't bring a textbook home, and we initially were upset with her and said, trying to teach her, when you study for a test, you need to bring your book home. And what we found out is, as we went up to talk to the teacher about it, is that they were using a new curriculum and that it did not have textbooks associated with it. So we were told textbooks were outdated, and so we asked that. We felt comfortable with the computer. We said, that's fine. Can we look and see the material that y'all have if it's online? And what we were told is there was a parent portal, and we did go to the parent portal to look. But what we found was that it was really insufficient to provide any kind of information for what they were learning, to show us there were some basic objectives, maybe 2 objectives for what they learned the entire day. And so we returned and let them know that we thought that was insufficient. They did tell us eventually that there was a textbook that they had purchased as a classroom set that we could check out of the library. But then when we questioned them on that, would that be on the test, or is that what they were learning? No, the learning is what's on Cscope, and we were denied access to that portion of the material. And so from that, we drew great concern that we, you know, for one, we wanted a resource to help we as a parent wanted to help our kids at home, and we felt like the school would want us to provide that help, and we were lacking that resource. They had a worksheet that they would send home.
And you're
for their
watching
test.
On
It
Point.
would have
I'm
10
Peggy
questions that they
Venable.
would scribble off the board of their handwriting with a one-word answer. And if we tried to expound on any of those answers, we didn't have the resource or the textbook to really do that. And so we felt like it was really insufficient.
You know, that's amazing because we do hear more and more about online learning and the importance of using the computer. And I'm wondering now, as we're talking about this, if perhaps as we look at online learning, we really want to make sure that we still have the safeguards in place that the State Board of Education